You're listening to Operator.
Hi everyone, welcome to A Dose of AMPFEMININE. This is a show where we dig into the messy, beautiful world of collaboration and collectivity. And each episode I bring in guests, DJs and non-DJs who are or have been part of collectives and collaborations. We talk about what's worked, what's been hard and why they keep showing up. Alongside the conversations, we feature mixes from guests and from me, or us and feminine. And we mix sounds that reflect different ways of being and creating together. Today's guests are people I have a lot of love and respect for, pioneers in this game, and honestly a big part of why Amsterdam's underground feels like it does. DRKNGHTS. So for anyone who doesn't know you yet, who is DRKNGHTS?
Wow, what an introduction. I think first and foremost, thank you so much for inviting us. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and to kind of connect in this way. What is Dark Knights? Dark Knights is a collaboration grown out of collective effort. And we've been DJing as Dark Knights for the past 13 years, based in Amsterdam. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I already want to thank you for coming all the way to Rotterdam to be here with us. And I opened the show with a track by Cashmere Cat. It's called With Me. Because of course, I did some research, some extra research, and I read that you were also really into the SoundCloud back in the days, and this is like typical. This is kind of what I hear when I think about SoundCloud. Yeah. And I also saw that you were like visiting WAV files, for example. Wow. That was a great era. That was a great era. So the question I have for you is, what does Dark Knight sound like? If you can describe it with feelings, textures, maybe a track, however you feel like. What does Dark Knight sound like?
I think it's a very difficult question to answer, first and foremost. I think Dark Knights has, as we mentioned, we've been doing it for 13 years, so it's been a journey. I think Dark Knights today didn't sound like, or doesn't sound like Dark Knights 10 years ago, or even 5 or maybe 7 years ago, so it's been a journey. I think Dark Knights has been affected or influenced by a lot that we've experienced and our personal background as well, and our experience within like the club industry or the club scene and the nightlife. And if I would have to categorize it a little bit or put ourselves in a box right now, it's definitely techno, but in the broadest sense of the word. So it goes through all of the subgenres of techno and then rests in the bosom of everything. Yeah. And I think in addition,
like Chris mentioned, we had some evolutions, but like you said, it comes from a feeling and also navigating through that process and evolving with different sounds, and maybe just also being in nightlife culture and experiencing that. And I feel like we've had many phases, but it kind of all led up to this. And I feel like, we're in a refined phase, but it's not going to end here. I think we're going to keep on refining that and finding ourselves in that space.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful answers, because of course you also have another practice, which we're going to talk about later, but I can imagine that also plays a big part in this evolution of who Dark Knights is. And we're gonna wait a little bit to talk about that. But as you said, like you've transformed, or into different shapes constantly. And I would like to ask you to take us back to the beginning of Dark Knights. How did it start? I know that you were first with the three of you. Now there's 2 people in Dark Knights Collective, or maybe you would say there's more. There's always like a community around a collective that's also kind of part of who you are. But take us to the beginning.
I can start it off, and then Chris can interject as well, because it's funny you mentioned WAV files. But I think Dark Knight started when we first met. Chris and I met during our studies in Holland, and we connected through a lot of things, but definitely through music. And I think just finding out that she had such a broad range of interest and similar cultural backgrounds, but also things that weren't in that norm of our background. So I feel like we definitely connected on that, and started to take DJ lessons, and we were really interested in playing music as a DJ, the person that sends out into the room or through the speakers. And we kind of started like that, and we had a sensei in the beginning as well, and yeah. Maybe you can interject then.
Yeah, so we did have a sensei, and I think, as Leslie said, it started from initial connection between the two of us as friends, and then it went into having friends that were also in the creative industries, organizing parties, DJing as well. So for us, it was also a contribution to that space, I guess. So into the friend group, we used to host house parties and things like that, and we would naturally kind of gravitate towards the music. And as you mentioned, we had a sensei, Imru, if you're listening, shout out to you, who took us under the wing. He had a little controller at his house back then, and that was walking distance from our school and our friend's house. So that's where the first little lines of theories were laid, and then it kind of snowballed into then having friends who organize parties, and were like, oh, you touch the deck, so come and play at the party. Super low, a low barrier of entrance, and it was a beautiful time because you could co-create with friends and like-minded people. And again, that then goes into the WAV files moments that we had, or the early moments of where there was some newness going on in Amsterdam as well, younger organizations stepping into the scene that had a different sound that was the norm in Amsterdam, but also people from different backgrounds that you wouldn't normally see then in the electronic music space as well. This is only the beginning. If you want to interject.
So we started off with the two of us actually, and so when we were knighted. So somebody gave us the name, which is Edward Boye. Shout out. And I think it started off as something different, but we came on Dark Nights and started playing at the parties, organizing ourselves. Through our studies, we were organizing parties and other creative things as well. And then Maxime came along the way, the journey. And it was pretty quickly, maybe year 2 of Dark Nights, that she joined. Chris also had a little stint abroad where she was away. So it kind of made sense for Max to join us. And then when Chris was back, it also felt naturally that the three of us were Dark Nights.
Yeah. Collective.
Collective. Yeah, we were called Dark Nights Collective, which we eventually dropped. But I think maybe that will come up in another question.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't know. Okay. So, no, I've been mentioning you as Dark Nights, so far. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Not that I'm like
we've been training. It took a lot of years to like train it out.
Yeah, exactly. Especially after all those years, right? That people know your name. Like, how do you unlearn? Kind of.
It's hard.
But okay. Thank you. That's beautiful. I hear that also a lot of people played a part in what Dark Nights is. And I was also thinking about, you started quite young, right? As youngsters, kind of.
Yeah,
I would say
pretty.
Yeah.
I think young-ish.
I was 18, I think, when we started really first DJing. Yeah. Maybe before we were in clubs, of course, but I was definitely the youngest. Yeah, I was the baby.
Yeah.
I was 21, I think, when we started.
Wow.
Yeah. So youngish.
That's what I'm saying. Like, oh shit, I wish I had done it like when I was so young. Not really. I feel like that's really amazing when you have that crowd or those people around you that are like, oh, you want to try it out? Let's go. You know, here you have the tools and the and the connections and everything. Then my next question would be around you have quite a lot of experience in this scene, so this is a question that maybe lots of people that collaborate or collectives in the electronic music scene maybe deal with. which is if you've ever felt the pressure to make Dark Nights more digestible for bookers or venues or other organizations.
Yeah, most definitely. I think in the earlier stages, I think we did feel a little bit more of the pressure to be digestible, and I think it also came from a little bit laziness from like bookers to not really know what you're doing before you get booked. But I think those moments taught us a lot, because it was really quickly after that we decided to be a little bit more strict with the things that we would accept, and also being able to say no, because I think definitely as a collective or DJs, you're really eager to play because you want to share your music with other people. But not every gig is a good gig. I think if there's something that's not necessarily a match, or the person who books you can't really explain why they book you, I think it's then good to kind of, take a step back and make sure you're critical with the things that you accept, because I think those experiences were for us definitely unpleasant, because you have a crowd that is expecting a certain thing because it's promoted like that or sold like that, and then they get something else, and we even though we felt the pressure, we would never change up our sound.
No,
it's
exactly.
like, if you have,
this is who we are.
Yeah, this is who we have, this is what we brought, there's nothing else but this for you to get, so this is what you're gonna get. Yeah, but it's of course never a nice experience if you're then on the stage, or you feel like a little bit of resistance because there was a mismatch of expectations. But yeah, I think that was a quick lesson for us to know, like, hey, be more critical, ask more questions as well. It's not, an immediate yes. It's like, hey, what's the lineup saying? What's the timetable saying? Like, why, did you book us? Just ask for feedback to try and gauge if it's a match. And if it's not, feel free to say no.
Yeah. That was also the period that, or shortly after, because it was a longer period of navigating and then going through that there's a mismatch, or somebody doesn't fully understand or took the time to look into it or do any research. And I think also the word collective on a deeper level, it feels it was us. We are still a collective, even though we're now with the two. It started from a collective. I feel like that's a movement as well, and it's very you can take it back to a certain time. But we did have to drop it, not for us that we felt the pressure, but in a way to train others to see it maybe out of a box. And maybe the same for music as well. Obviously, we evolved, and maybe it came from a very broad taste, and we refined it, but also that was our way to train. And I think what DJs are all about, which is sending out and not necessarily, it can be like a co-creation. I think the crowd also gives you, and community can give you things as well, even songs, for example, but it's really your role to kind of steer people. And we worked hard to be able to just stand in our shoes and say this is it and this is what we are.
And we're not gonna
we're not gonna
change for anyone.
Like she said, we it would be a mismatch. We would be at a party and we would de zaal leegdraaien, because we're just keep on doing what we did. But I think the excitement was always there. So we had lots of energy, even though maybe sometimes, it didn't really work out in the way you wanted it. So,
but this, I recognize this a lot from our experience as Feminine as well, especially when you're just starting out and you're just so excited. You're like, oh, let's go, we'll take on that gig. But eventually it's exhausting if it doesn't give you the same energy back as you put in, because people don't know who they actually booked. And so this is so recognizable. But my question then would be like, what kind of tips would you give like, yeah, you already mentioned a bit, like, be critical and, not just take on anything, do your research and everything. I was wondering if you have another tip for young collectives that are just starting out, or just not even only collectives, maybe just young creatives in general. Yeah.
I think another tip would be ask questions, to kind of not create a bond, but kind of not test as well, but create a dialogue with the person who's booking you or the organizer of the event. Ask what their event is about, to just see if you align in the broadest sense, and then indeed just general information. If it's, for instance, a DJ and it's a stage or a club, ask what the lineup is, what other DJs do they have in mind, like ask just for context of the event, so that it's a little bit more clear if you see yourself within that context. And then if the answer is no, then the answer is no.
Yeah. I would say thank you so much for the tips. I think these are things that when you're just starting out you don't think of, because you just wanna play anywhere. So this is very important to say, but at the same time I'm also thinking, like, how do you actually set that boundary for yourself when you're just being asked constantly, right? So it's such a, it's, how do I explain it? I feel like sometimes we've chosen to accept a gig even though we already knew that this was not it. We already knew, like, yes, you feel it, like, and then you still do it, and afterwards you're just like, okay, I should not have done this. But
I think what you mentioned, like the boundary part, so maybe I think it's always good to have also a little bit of distance between the person who books you and the artist. So having a booker would be nice, but I know not everyone is able to have that, or finding representation is a little bit harder these days, because a lot of the labels are full, and it's, a scouting and also a friendly industry, or a friend's industry. But if you don't have a booker, ask a friend to, jump in or pick up the emails on your behalf, because I think if you do create a little bit of a distance, it's also easier to say no, because you don't feel like you've burned a bridge, so to say. So I think maybe having someone as like a middleman would help a lot, and do it within your friend groups. And I think if you do it for someone, they can also do it for you, like have like a little bit of a, back vice versa going on. I think that would be good.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mention it, like having a booker, because I just called with Mo yesterday, and he was like, "Well, Dark Knights, they were with me."
We were SMO.
SMO, yeah. Wow, and I never knew that was such a beautiful moment.
Yeah,
was like,
it was
all connected.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just to add as well, I think DJ or any creative, you are like an artist, or you're creating something, and it's nice to just stay in that role and not having to step out of it, especially maybe when you're at a club gig and you're there. You kind of want to focus, or make sure that you play well and your set is good, and that you have your attention on the decks and everything. So if you do have a booker or somebody there that can kind of look out for you in some things, or can say like, hey, we want the lights to be like this, or all the little things, maybe your writer isn't at the stage yet. I think, of course, you can say some things yourself, but it kind of keeps you in that role, and so you can maintain that. Focus on the
creative part.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of things that when you're just starting out that you have no clue of, and then once you get started, all of these things pop up, and you're just and then it's just it
and
just
it's really
takes
a lot of
it's a lot.
things.
Yeah, exactly. It's a
It's
lot
like
of
6
things.
roles for one
Yeah.
a group or one person.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely finding that help, and it doesn't need to be somebody. It doesn't need to be a label or somebody that's already experienced. I think maybe if you're starting out, it's a great way to create like a partnership with somebody, and yeah.
Yeah. What the hell? Oh my god. Yeah. Okay. So we just had some technical difficulties. But we're all good now. I hope. Let's see. I think the mics are still on. Yes, they are. Yeah, then we're gonna continue into the next question. We already talked about like why you dropped collective a bit, and lately in in the club scene here in the Netherlands, a lot of venues have been inviting other collectives to program in their space. The question that I want to ask is do you think that collectives are like a recognized key, if they have a key part into this like nightlife ecosystem, and what it is that these clubs want from those collectives? Like, why is it so that the collectives are now taking up all of the spaces instead of the programmers doing their own work, basically?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, definitely a great question. I think it's indeed, I think it's always been a collective heavy industry in the nightlife. And of course, it could be in different ways. It could be either a DJ collective, just a creative collective, organizer collective. But I think the collective mindset is something that's been always pushed forward. And I think the reason why bookers or venues or organizers are drawn to collective is because they bring their own people, so to say. They bring their own target audience. They have their own crowd, of like-minded people as well. So you don't just reach one person that you would, or not one person, but you don't just reach people on one avenue. You reach them with everything, if that makes sense. And I think it's easier than for a venue or a label or a booker or organizer to do a collective, because they can fill in all of the missing pieces within that. It doesn't always need to be one-dimensional, but they can create like a whole experience, and also bring the people off of the back of that. So I think that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, like she said, a collective is also like more attached to a community. Not that DJs or other forms of artists aren't, but I think it's just because it's group based. But like Chris said, I think it's always been, maybe even if you look back to the 90s or maybe 80s, I think there's always been a collective mindset, like Christiana said. But more recently, I do notice it that, like you said, they're kind of like guest programmers nowadays, and a lot of it really makes sense. And there's a lot of power in collectives. You can do a lot when you're with more people and send out more. But I think it's also heavily on that they rely on collectives to bring people in. And that is selling tickets, entering those spaces, events, where it may be really difficult to reach some people nowadays. And how do you reach them? And maybe there are more groups or more separation or more overlap. So I don't fully know what the answer is, but I also think, like you said, doing the job, maybe they should put the collectives in a more permanent position. if that's the case.
That's an idea.
You know?
Yeah.
And also trying to make not the negative point, but the positive point,
Yes.
because we can all speculate, but yeah, maybe it's time to work in different forms
Yeah.
and let a collective lead a club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that idea. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you for your beautiful answers. Let's see. What we're gonna do now is, I think I would. What do you prefer? I would like to maybe play a few tracks before we go into the second part.
Yeah.
Is that all right, Jill?
Yeah.
Sounds
Okay.
great.
Okay.
Play a record, I think.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, you want to play a
Yeah,
record
yeah.
first?
After.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Danke.
So, Dark Knights is gonna play a record first, and yeah, we'll just take you on this journey for the next. We still have 1.5 hours, so.
Can I drop the mics?
Yeah. That was a song by Scan 7 called Dark Corridor, the downgraded remix. And didn't really pick this by chance, but it is a collective from Detroit.
That was Dave Clark's What Was Her Name? Black Strobe remix.
That was Miel with Atlantic. So we've played a few tracks that we adore, that we have in our libraries. Okay, that's I like that. That's a cringy bridge to the next part of the show. We're gonna talk about the other practice that Dark Knights have. So we've talked about how Dark Knights started, what were their influences, who are the people around them, and we're gonna continue into another layer of what Dark Knights has evolved in or to. And in, I think, 2020, you've started another project. And it's a project where they curate an archive of vinyl, cassettes, CDs, and more beyond all of that, right? Okay, great. Can you tell a little more about 1 Did I say? I should have said
106.
106
106.
Music Library.
Yeah, sure. It's indeed a project that we started in 2020. Of course, we all know what happened in 2020. COVID hit. As we mentioned, we already DJ'd for a little bit before, but everything, of course, closed down and locked down. It was also, I think, 6 months before we started Dark Knights. That's when we got our space. So we have a space in a Broedplaats in Amsterdam in the Kazerne. And that was our first real office space that we got for Dark Knights because it was going so well. And we were, we needed somewhere to come together, have meetings, talk about music, look for music, and also to invite other people too. So that space was in August of 2019, I think we got that. And then around 2020, everything closed down. So that's when we, of course, we already had a little bit of music. We had some records. We had a little bit of a setup in terms of like a record player and maybe 1-2 speakers, some studio monitors that we had. It was also the time that we came together a lot. So I think the office space that I was talking about was a pivotal moment for us to start 106 Music Library, because it was like all the stars were aligning. We got like a really good donation, or there was a secondhand store closing down that was walking distance from us, and they had a lot of CDs, and we used to just go there to look at the CDs, and then they closed down and they said the whole place is for free. Yeah.
Wow.
So I called Leslie. We grabbed some big IKEA bags and we went through boxes and boxes and boxes of CDs. And that's already where the curation started, because we didn't just take everything. We just flipped through a whole lot and we just, yes, no pile, but quickly. It was, I think, in a space of 45 minutes to hours, but these were like hundreds of CDs. It was a lot. And we ended up taking crates and crates of that. And then we were like, we're sitting on something, and that was like the start of the listening experience, which then, birthed 106 Music Library. It's a little bit a long and a short, but Leslie, maybe you want to add some things?
I think you got it. You got the essence. But next to that, it was also some parts of it was avondklok. So we also did go to like record stores or kringloopwinkeltjes. And, till 6 o'clock, but we kind of had a way to extend our time at the office. So, it really came out of a need to experience, but maybe in a different way. So it forced us as well out of the clubs or festivals or whatever to maybe a new medium. So it was very organic and it made a lot of sense. And the name was just a placeholder in the beginning, but it fits perfectly, I think, for us. Yeah.
Can you then also tell me more about the name?
Yeah, it was linked then to our office, which was the unit that we had. So it was a placeholder, but like Chris said, I think it was really a pivotal moment for us to grow as well. and just to have a dedicated space.
Yeah.
Because you can be at home or you can meet at each other's places or in public, but then I think a magic happened when we were in our own office space.
Yeah, I can imagine that, like being outside of your home and creating this space. Yeah, it's just, especially in those times, right?
Yeah,
For sure.
It's
and we were there like sometimes early and really late at night, so we had a lot of time together.
yeah,
And then maybe not rediscovering our mutual love for different music, but I think in a way probably, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but we also like this, and we also have a Sisla or a lot of reggae vinyl or old CDs from R&B mixes that reminded us of back in the day. So it was like a new world kind of opened.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like.
yeah. So the space is also accessible to others, or
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
by appointment.
but okay, exactly, advertising. Okay, no, good to know. Good to know. Yeah, beautiful. So it all started quite organically. So you first had the space, and then this thrift store. They were like, "Hey, come get this beautiful music that we have."
And
Is
also ourselves collecting vinyl already.
already, yeah, exactly. That's exactly where my question heads into. Is like, obviously, as DJs, you've been collecting lots of songs or sounds, even from all different genres. And my question is, what has taught you that music was worth keeping? So is this something that you've grown up with, or have you discovered this yourself? Or
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. As a 90s baby myself, I did grow up around a lot of music, or my parents used to throw a lot of house parties, for instance. So there are a lot of instances where it would be the music that was played was from a collection that we had at home. So my parents were avid collectors, but they had everything from CDs to cassettes and just a really big sound system. So I think it started there, and also just not growing up in a digital age. My first experience with also buying music as a young, I think early teens. I think I was like 11, and then going to the Pico and then having a little bit of money and buying a single for $2.50. I think those times already sparked like the interest of collecting, because you would go there, listen to music, and then grab something. We also had people coming over to the house that turned like the burned CDs that they would sell, like, make their own mixes and sell to you for like your social gatherings and things like that. And I think, as we mentioned, when we did come together and used our office as a place of experience, so experiencing music, listening to music front and back together, me and Leslie, but also other friends would come over. We would talk about the music. I think that also kind of fed into the idea of music is worth collecting. I think it's something that some generations before us did, but it kind of got lost since everything was digitized. And it's a lot easier to carry in between brackets an iPod than a bag of records. So I think just wanting to kind of preserve some of that, I think that was a really big inspiration for us as well.
Yeah, just to add something short to it, I think because we were sort of not in a full analog space where we grew up, but kind of. And then also the beginning of the digital world was also a bit different. Maybe for me, myself, I spent years, hours on LimeWire downloading, but collecting and then saving that music was also different, because I had my files, I had my maps, and I even like wrote my list on paper and things like that. So it was already maybe a love for not just documenting, but making it a full experience. Like maybe finding out some things. It was like research a little bit, which I think is a part of having music libraries. Also, you just stumble naturally on research because you're looking at the record, the cover, you're reading the credits, you're seeing who all participated, you're seeing lines like, wait a minute, I saw this name on the other final as well, or same with CDs. I feel like there's more documentation, to go through.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. It also reminds me of a very good friend of mine, Ta, and she was really like, we were maybe 8 years old, and at her birthday parties she would always hand out a burnt CD with her favorite tracks. And I will never right, bring
like
that
a
back.
love letter almost.
Exactly, that's the love letter. And I'm like, she was there already. And I still have those CDs as well. Like it's a very, very special thing to give someone a taste of what you listen to or feel. And that also brings me to the next question, which is who is the music library for, and what is it that you give to others? Is it indeed a love letter? How would you describe your practice, and what you think that others should take from it, or receive?
I think in general, the broad sense, it is for everyone. The function of the library is to, I think, definitely preserve, like not just all artifacts of music, what we can collect, obviously, and then to have that open so it can be shared. For example, a lot of our donations are maybe from people that just want to clean up their storage room, or feel like I have so many dope records or CDs, but they're just collecting dust, or you guys love music or like to do things with it, I'll rather give it to you. So I think it's like a funnel for everyone, but then also maybe some specific people or groups. Chris mentioned something the last time we spoke publicly about it, about maybe some cultural groups or music, and how maybe even some things haven't really been documented well enough, so the access is also not always there. Maybe you can explain it a little bit, but for example, me just going back to Suriname this year and on a mission to also find new records, it was such a difficult time to find that. And you have some people, and shout out to Pierre, who really had his own library and kept good care of it, but you see that a lot of those records or CDs are kind of end up somewhere unused and then inaccessible.
I agree, and as she mentioned, I think it was or for who it is, it's also for people who are the descendants of some of the cultural heritage or heritages that we have the music from. So that would be a lot of like Caribbean, African, Indonesian, like everything you can think of, because of course since we are collecting records, the records are mostly from a certain time period, and the stories that were told or the experiences that the generations before them had with these records are of course maybe not necessarily told to them because they come a few generations later, but we want to make sure that it's still there for the next generations to also experience and create their own memories with, but also to listen to those stories and maybe talk to their the generations before them and exchange, if that makes sense. So I think that's also a big part of why we have the library as well.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Now, I have a follow-up question then for you, Leslie. You went to Suriname, and you were specifically also researching music, looking for records. What is it that you were looking for?
I think Definitely maybe a certain generation before me that was there when there were a lot of record shops, or it was normal to have music stores that sold CDs, cassettes, and literally the music that they collected, and then also the original version of that. But also just a taste to maybe see, because a lot of collections are like a time capsule, I feel like, and also just what they've collected in the meantime. But and there's always a lot of stories connected to it. So and then definitely certain music, so local music. I was definitely interested in CDs as well, with more recent, maybe 2000 or 2010s, but couldn't find it this time. Maybe next time for CDs, I have more success. So definitely those stories through music and the time capsule.
Amazing. Thank you. I'd like to talk to you after the show as well around this topic, because we have limited time, and I feel like we shared how do you say it? We share the same kind of I don't really know how to say this right now. We share a lot. Let me just say this. So I'm like, we need more time to talk about this. But when you speak about stories that are attached to certain sounds, genres, and the cultures, what's the story that you have in your collection that's really... Well, I'm assuming there's so many stories in your collection already, but if you could pick only one or two, you're with two, so let's pick two, if possible. You could also pick one. But yeah, what's the story in your collection that you want to mention in this show at this moment?
Maybe a story in the collection. I think to piggyback off of Leslie's trip to Suriname, I also had a trip to Ghana. This was a little bit longer ago, but during the earlier stages of 106. And as we mentioned, we of course want to bring stories to the forefront. And I just remembered like my own background and what we used to do when there were parties back in the days, the house parties, the little hall parties, and the music that was spun there. I couldn't find any of those musics or music pieces or physical pieces in the Netherlands. So where better than back in the motherland? And of course, since it was a focus during that time, I made sure to go to the record stores that were available. There are not a lot. I think there's like one main one in Accra that's the only one that everyone knows in the art center. God's Time is what the shop is called. But they did have another space. So after talking to, some distant family members, they were able to take me to a space in it's called Opera Market, and that's where back in the days that's where the music market used to be. So everyone who sold CDs had like a specific part of the market, and that's where like everyone would go and buy their CDs, but also like DVDs and things like that. And being there and seeing what they had, of course, it's a lot less than it was before because everyone has digital music now, but you still also, I think like us, still had some people that still believed in the physical form, so still retained their shops and made sure that they still stocked those CDs, if that makes sense. So I think the general story was going back home to kind of bring those pieces to the Netherlands, but also while going then through all of those CDs, and also having my cousin with me that was like, oh, you need to get this, you need to get that, remember this, remember that. I think that was a really a great experience, and also then bringing it back and re-listening it and re-listening it with Leslie, of course, who I've been really close to for the past 10 plus years. She also recognized then some of the songs that we would play in the car when we used to go to gigs. Is very, it's a full circle moment there as well. And I think being able to play then some of these songs at different spaces such as museums and also other spaces, and then have someone look up and be like, oh, I remember this from 20 years ago back at the, at the parties. I think that's some of the storytelling that we do as well, but through music. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. So I want to talk a bit about the process also, because the archive is a living thing, and you're open for donations. You visit other countries. You actively search for music that might have been forgotten. Can you tell me more about the process on that? Like, for example, if you receive a donation, like, how do you, like, is there a sort of protocol that you follow? Like, did you sometimes not take in the donation? Like, maybe you can tell me more about how it works. Like,
I think for taking
selection.
in, we don't have requirements. It's almost like bring a stray cat or a stray animal home sometimes, in the sense of that maybe it's not complete, maybe something is damaged, maybe something we don't even know yet. So I think for donations, it's always like, we accept. Thank you. And then protocol of dealing with that. I mean, we try to, and we do have like a method in our minds of how we process it, but a lot of things are also just together. And obviously we do like some things that we really want to keep in a good condition, or something that's maybe sealed still or whatever. We try to give that a special place, and usually we don't unseal a lot, maybe special occasions, or we were like, no, this one is gonna, keep that one sealed. But yeah, I don't think we have any protocols then, more than it needs to be either vinyl, CD, or cassette.
Yeah.
And we're open also for other artifacts. We collect music magazines, even different languages,
wow.
French, German. Well, except
wow, so cool.
Posters. Chris got like a set list from the Witch concert, other things like that. Posters, trying to get things signed. Instruments. We're collecting random instruments.
Yeah,
Guitar. What's the little? It's like
Arcadian.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you guys
Accordion.
will, accordion.
Nederlands.
With like a thing. Yeah. We haven't figured it out yet, but that's fun. And also, so maybe new things like genres. We have a new donation of a lot of classical CDs. I have a very limited basic knowledge. So, but sometimes it evolves again. Maybe in 2 or 3 years we know some more things about classical music.
Wow.
Western classical. Yeah.
Amazing. And how do these people find you? Like, how how does that work?
Yeah, it's very organic. Of course, the first few donations were from her family. There were some from some alumni, so people we've had in DJ workshops, for instance. It's people that are around the community. So we have like where we said that we house our office space. It's a creative community, creative hub, and that's also people that walk by and are like, oh, is that you? And then they just drop off a bag.
There's a butterfly in the studio. Is it a butterfly? A moth. Oh no.
Whatever it's colorless. I feel like it's a moth.
I think it's a moth. And I think we also have it online, so people find us through there as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's been also maybe a slowly but surely process, although I feel like we did accomplish a lot in these years, or that people know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think playing, because we have that sound system part to it, and sometimes we get booked for some gigs, and usually there are, in a cultural sense or a museum or something that's very curated. So maybe now people around besides our inner circle, have seen us with records and CDs, and they're like, oh, there's two girls there that do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And and yeah, what does it feel like when you receive a donation of like years and years of collecting, putting so much love into that? Yeah, right. Yeah, I can imagine that it feels like pressure. Like they probably hand it over to you and they're like, take care of my children, kind of like that. And then you say yes, of course.
Yeah.
But how does that feel like? It must feel so special.
Yeah, it definitely feels really special, and also, as Leslie said, a little bit of pressure. But I think also discovering what the donation holds, like, it's also really exciting in a way, because you never know what's in there, and it's mostly also a array, let's say, of genres. So it might be a little bit different genres. There might be some doubles even that we already have, but then have another one of, or maybe an earlier pressing. So it's nice going through them and looking at the covers, looking at everything and listening as well. Yeah, so it's pressure, but also really exciting, and grateful that people would entrust us with their the music that they hand selected and kept for so many years. Yeah.
yeah, one thing I also found that's maybe even just going to kringloop or record stores or maybe like fairs. You can easily connect with other people through music, and it just defies all barriers. So maybe age, background, or whatever. Like if you're walking with a record and somebody's like, oh, na na na, and a whole conversation comes from that, you can kind of see the glow in somebody's eyes or their enthusiasm when they're speaking about something. So maybe it's for the people giving something to us. Maybe it's a little bit of that in interesting, like, okay, they actually have love for this, and or they already are collecting. But I think the people wouldn't necessarily know, okay, what will happen. Of course, they're gonna play. They have an office, but it's also for them maybe like, oh, okay, I trust it, and it's gonna move on to a new. But I think the generation that also grew up with vinyl has that with it, because it's like it lives on. It's material, but it lives on. So maybe not your life, but for you keeping it, and then the next generation. It's really like a legacy project. So hopefully the library would also continue when to the next generation behind after us.
It will. Yeah, thank you. You I saw you on the lineup of Pardon. It's 10 years anniversary of Pardon. Shout out AC. Nice. And I was wondering what it looks like if you how would you say it? Play, perform. What does it look like if you're performing in a club or an event?
I think there's been like an evolution in that as well. Playing, but also having our monthly radio set. We have played it a lot radio style, so to say. So playing tracks in full, maybe not always mixing them together, leaving some space. But also then for us, it evolved into us experimenting more, maybe in other forms. Maybe Pardon, I know Pardon, we did a little bit more of the mixing. So it also depends where and what we're gonna play. But I think usually we do like to let you hear the full track, because that's also part of the experience, or why we've selected or curated something. And
Yeah, I agree. And as she mentioned, for Pardon, it's like super specific because it was at Skate Cafe, and that's more of a club vibe, if that makes sense. But I think for anything 106 sound system, it always starts from a curator's point of view. So you have a library, and that's where you kind of curate the sound that you're gonna play that evening, that afternoon, that morning, but it's always with a curation point of view. So when he asked us, since there's also history there, of course, I think Pardon was their 10-year anniversary, and then with Dark Knights also being a little bit more than that, we go way back. We've also played there as Dark Knights in the past, so this was also for him a full circle moment. So he did curate a stage where you only had people that played on vinyl, so that was super cool for us as well to be a part of that. And yeah, it's always different, but I think for shows or performances or listening session, we always try to curate, because we do have such a vast living library that we are able to take it each different direction. But it's a curated and a tailor-made selection for every occasion. Yeah.
That makes sense, definitely. Yeah. We have a little over 30 minutes left. And yeah, I want to ask one last question then, or last question for this part. And then after we can go into more sounds. Yeah, I want to talk about the different sounds that or genres that have a space in your music library. You just mentioned classical music, that you had a donation of classical music, and maybe that already kind of answers the question, but maybe there's more. The question is there a genre, sound, or era that 106 Music Library has pulled you toward, that you would not have found through DJing?
Maybe, I think a lot, actually. The DJing through Dark Knights is definitely Chris and Les and 100% us, but it's also one part of us. And I think 106, we were able to access more things. So, and also being busy with that a lot. Even just genres that I already knew. For example, I love soul. We both love soul, 70s, 80s, 60s, and just being able to go in depth into things to discovering more music, discovering artists, and just links, samples, but also some other genres that I think I already liked, had like an ear for, but didn't fully delve into it. And maybe also thanks to Christiana and her cultural background, I feel like Afro psychedelica, even Afro rock, Zam rock, for me was also a new world. Definitely heard some sound bites here and there, but maybe I couldn't link it to artists. And now we're discovering that. And so a lot of things made sense, is already in us. And then you have a few things that are maybe new. So maybe even for like indie or just, again, rock, psychedelic. I don't know if you have other genres.
Yeah. Also different countries, Japanese, crazy Japanese records and stories. And I think a lot of like the South Americas is also like a recent discovery, especially things like Haiti and other, Guadeloupe, like a lot of the other places. And as Leslie mentioned as well, for me personally, also the 70s, because a lot of great music was made in the 70s. And it kept reoccurring. So if I would see something, I would listen to it, and then I would flip it over, and then it was made in 76 or 74. So I think for an era, definitely that, because before that I would listen to, I think maybe 80s was the latest. I think that's the most that you would get from just growing up. In the 90s, you get a little bit from before, and the rest is from like newer music. So definitely it pulled me back a couple of decades for sure. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. I can't wait to visit your space.
Come through.
I'm like, yes, let's listen to music, which is also what we're gonna do now.
Yes.
So we have some time to play some music.
See?
Yeah, let's do it. Wow. Dark Nights at Operator for a dose of Feminine. I really want to thank you so much for being here with me in this space, sharing all of your insights. It's just amazing to hear how you've started and where you're growing into. Which also brings me to the last question to kind of close this off. Well, maybe let's see. I have so many questions, so I'm like, which one? Pick one. I'm gonna go for this one. What do you want one 106 Music Library to become?
Great question.
Wildest dreams?
Wildest dreams. Wildest.
To continue for many more generations to come, to maybe establish its own place, its own house, maybe a 106 house, like a culture center.
Yeah, I think co-sign everything. Wildest dreams that 106 will be part of like the cultural landscape in a significant way, just like OBA is, or like any other library is, and to be able to facilitate and of course tell the story and house and connect music with people. I think that's the dream. Yeah.
Maybe even a OBA collaboration for those listening. Maybe we can arrange a little corner in some local libraries. That would be a dream as well.
Yeah. I love this. Yeah, I can't wait to just experience everything that you're doing. And is there anything else that you want to share with the people? I don't know. Last thing.
Yeah, we just want to thank you as well for the experience, for the interview, for inviting us, and likewise, we also are very excited to see what AMPFEMININE is going to do in the future.
Thank you so much. Yay!
Thank